This documentary tells the ongoing story of a true martial arts master who has not only reached a level unexcelled in Okinawan Karate and Kobudo, but is also a master of the Filipino blade and stick fighting style of Escrima and military close quarter combat. Having taught tens of thousands of students, his teachings pioneered a martial arts system for one of the world's most elite fighting forces, the United States Marine Corps. He then crosses over into the gridiron, teaching NFL defensive linemen, all the time continuing to operate a dojo of his own and steadily traveling the United States and Canada giving seminars. Still, at the age of 75, he travels the U.S. teaching martial arts to karate students, military, and people from all walks of life. His story of success came to be from his relentless, wholehearted dedication to learning, training, and teaching traditional, authentic martial arts for over 6.5 decades. Most call him sensei, some call him guru, his friends call him Jim, but his name is Arsenio James Advincula. In 1938, Jim Advincula was born in Juneau, Alaska, during a time when interracial couples were still under a great tribulation. His mother, being Caucasian, father a Filipino, children harassed young Jim, eventually taking a new hat and jacket. Because of this, Jim's father, Gaspar, shown here teaching young Jim to balance on one leg, hired 2 Filipino scouts who were trained in combat judo and their native art of Escrima, which is a martial art that utilizes short sword similar to a machete, the knife, and unarmed techniques. At the age of 8, Jim began his training using a butcher's knife and a bayonet. Gaspar, by hiring these teachers, helped shape his son's destiny and created a passion within young Jim that would become his life. Jim joined the Marine Corps in 1957 and left his northern home traveling south to San Diego for boot camp. And in November of 1958, the young Marine was stationed on the island of Okinawa. On December 1st, 1958, Advincula began training Ishindu Karate and Kobudo with the legendary Okinawan master Tatsu Shimabuku, who is shown here performing kata. Kata is possibly one of the most mysterious and misunderstood aspects of any combat system. On the surface, kata are only groups of choreographed movements. However, as kata is studied under a qualified instructor, as Advincula did under Master Shimabuku, it unveils techniques, concepts, strategies, and fighting principles that have been passed down since ancient times and contain the most essential elements of any traditional karate or kobudo system. According to many of Shimabuku's top Okinawan students, the master called Advincula Sensei Katagwa, meaning kata man. He did this because of Advincula's understanding of kata and his ability to execute the application of the movements. Shimabuku demonstrated these feelings regularly towards Advincula by having Katagwa perform and lead demonstrations regularly that were held on Okinawa. Master Shimabuku also had Advincula teach in his dojo and suggested students to find Katagwa to continue training once they returned to the States. In 1960, Advincula returned to Alaska and taught Ishindu and close quarter combat, but also continued his training of Escrima and the Largo Mano system. In 1961, with Master Shimabuku's permission, Advincula Sensei designed the now famous Ishindu patch, using the symbol for Ishindu, the Megami, as its centerpiece. The original patch that is shown here was made incorrectly due to the language barrier between Advincula and the patchmaker. Advincula Sensei took his fist with the thumb on the top, where Isshinryu Styles placed the thumb, and drew the outline. As one can see, the shape of the patch was made with the thumb on the side, the way other styles of Okinawan Karate hold the thumb. Eventually, the patch was distributed in an oval shape. The orange border was also a mistake, with the crest originally intended to have a gold border. The relevance of this episode of Isshinryu history are the myths and misconceptions that spawned from this patch, and as we'll explain in greater detail further along in this documentary, how over 50 years later, Advincula would still be fighting to correct his mistakes with his tenacious pursuit of preserving his teacher's style. During his extended time on Okinawa, Advincula Sensei has studied many other styles of Okinawan Karate, including Shorin-do, Goji-do, and Uechi-do. One Okinawan style that Advincula highly admired was Hindiandi Gung-fu. He would later combine this style with his Escrima teaching, which he calls ACE, and is the acronym for Advincula Combat Escrima. He would also rely heavily on the techniques of Hindiandi for the foundation of two kata that he created himself that are called Katagwa 1 and 2. After Master Shimabuku's passing in 1975, Advincula would begin studying the Kobudo system of Ryukankai under Sensei Kotaro Iha and reached a 7th degree black belt in that style. Throughout the years of learning, practicing, and teaching all these other styles of Okinawan Karatedo, his loyalty towards his revered teacher, Tatsu Shimabuku, could never be questioned. Advincula, being married to an Okinawan since 1961, along with being stationed on the island for extended periods, gave him an insight into the deeper teachings of Isshinryu Karate. Just as important is that Advincula Sensei learned the culture of the Okinawans, something he teaches hand in hand with Karate. This fulfilled Master Shimabuku's wishes, who said that he hoped that Okinawa would be better understood through the study of Karatedo. The longest time Advincula has spent away from the island was fulfilling his obligations with the Marine Corps, and one event in particular, the Vietnam War. In 1865, Advincula would see his first combat action in Vietnam. Serving multiple tours gave Advincula Sensei the knowledge of exactly what worked in actual combat and what didn't. Advincula became a top drill instructor at Parris Island, South Carolina during the 1970s. He taught many recruits skills that would be needed to possibly save their life in combat, and a large majority of Marines saw combat in the first half of the 1970s. Being stationed in the States, many Isshinryu practitioners sought out Advincula to study under him. And with continuing to progress in his prowess of the style, led Advincula Sensei to be called upon to give seminars by many, including high-ranking Isshinryu Sensei. Advincula was again stationed on Okinawa in 1975, where he again trained with Master Shimabuku just prior to his death. Shimabuku's passing didn't deter Advincula Sensei from progressing in the system. He continued visiting and interviewing Shimabuku's top Okinawan students, including Yaiko Kineshi, Tatsu's #1 student, and Shimabuku's son, Shiso Shimabuku, who learned his father's most in-depth teachings. In 1981, Advincula Sensei retired from the Marine Corps, obtaining the rank of Master Sergeant. Even though Advincula was no longer on active duty, he continued to teach the Marines bayonet, knife, and hand-to-hand close-quarter combat.
Left and right, first, left and right, first, now they're on the deck. Okay, prepare to lunge. Recover. Kick. Now, first.
Throughout the 1980s, Advincula Sensei worked steadfastly teaching and promoting the martial arts. In 1983, he made a 3-part video series on Escrima, which are highly regarded and are still distributed 30 years later, making them one of the longest running instructional videos to date. 1987 brought an opportunity for Advincula that any martial arts teacher would fantasize about, working with an NFL football team, the San Diego Chargers. He was hired as a body management coach, working with the defensive line, teaching them lessons he acquired from his many years of training. Even though he was initially resented, Advincula Sensei quickly earned the players' respect, outmoving and overpowering some of the best players on the team. This is extraordinary due to the fact that Advincula was outweighed by the players on the average of 150 pounds and that he was over the age of 50. He continued to work with the Chargers until 1993, helping to take a 4-12 team when he began to a division championship and winning the AFC Conference and going to the Super Bowl a year later. In 1991, world-renowned knife maker Jim Hammond sought out Advincula Sensei in attempts to make the ultimate military combat knife. Advincula's design is believed by many to be just that, the ultimate fighting knife. The knife was an immediate hit. And just 3 years later, best-selling author James Byron Huggins uses the flesh eater as a main theme of his plot in the book called The Reckoning. The flesh eater is wielded by the book's main character, who is retired Delta Force, and features multiple knife fights which the author used Advincula's knife fighting system as a reference. Advincula's knowledge of the knife was also noticed by CNN, with him being interviewed during the O.J. Simpson trial, and by 1997, the Marine Corps had adopted Advincula Sensei's knife, bayonet, rifle, and close-quarter combat system, along with the vertical punch that is used in Ishin Karate. By the 1990s, Ishin Karate had long been very popular in the United States. However, many branches were far from what Master Shimabuku taught in Okinawa. Those who wanted to learn Shimabuku's karate and kobudo often called upon Advincula Sensei because of his knowledge of the system and deep relationship with Shimabuku Sensei. This led to a great increase in his seminar schedule, at times resembling a famous rock band more than a retired karate instructor. An essential part of karate that Advincula wanted to share with his new devotees was the culture of Okinawa. He learned decades earlier that the courtesy, generosity, and humility of the inhabitants of this island paradise was deeply intertwined into karate itself. Advincula began taking group tours to Okinawa in 1994, years before many others who made it a big business. Advincula Sensei put his students in the midst of Okinawa, doing so at no profit and even at times helping students with airfare and many other amenities. The students lived in rooms rented by Okinawans. They learned their history, spent time in their homes, trained in their dojo along with regular students, but most important, Advincula Sensei wanted them to learn the people themselves. Advincula Sensei also continued to interview Tatsu Shimabuku's family and peers to get further information on what, when, and where Master Shimabuku received his training. Long having the reputation of telling it like it is, Advincula Sensei wrote a series of articles in the late 1990s debunking the myths and misinformation that had become widespread within the Ishindu community. Some of the articles ranged from clarifying Master Shimabuku's background, the true history of the Ishindu symbol and patch, to dishonest claims made by many high-ranking Ishindu sensei. Some of those who were exposed to these articles attempted to refute Advincula. However, with the overwhelming amount of evidence that he produced, many Ishindu sensei around the globe changed what they taught their students. And even though there is still work to be done, Advincula Sensei's efforts to preserve what Tatsu Shimabuku taught has greatly increased the accuracy in what is being passed on to the students of the system. Advincula's dedication to Ishindu and loyalty to his teacher was recognized in 1999 when Tatsu Shimabuku's son, Shiso Sensei, presented Advincula with his father's bow cover. Shiso Shimabuku Sensei told Advincula that his father told him just before he passed to give the bow cover to the Dai Senpai, which means the senior student. It is Okinawan custom to give a gift to be passed on to the top student who preserves the teachings of the dojo.
Either Armstrong, Advincula, and Nego. One guy, they give it to one guy, so he give it to you.
Collection job,
Yeah.
25 years after his teacher's passing, Advincula formed his own organization called the Ishinkai. Unique to the Ishinkai is that there are no dues or fees, with the only requirement being that one teaches Ishindu Karate and Kobudo as Tatsu Shimabuku taught. Advincula holds a yearly meeting at his home in Southern California where he teaches Ishindu Karate, Kobudo, and Okinawan culture. He allows anyone to attend who is interested in Okinawan Karate, their culture, or martial arts in general. In 2001, over 40 years after he taught his first hand-to-hand class to the Marines, Advincula was bestowed an honor that would be a dream of any martial artist in the Marine Corps. He was acknowledged as an original founding father of the Marine Corps Martial Arts Program and awarded the title of Black Belt Emeritus in the Corps' newly revised program that is taught to recruits. In this same year, Advincula Sensei released an instructional video series on Ishindu Karate, showing all of the basic application for kata taught by Shimabuku, along with many of the finer points of the system. This series, and the Kobudo series released a year later, are the most in-depth instructional videos available and clearly demonstrates why Master Shimabuku named Advincula Sensei Katagwa. The Kata Man would be recognized again in 2005 for his commitment to preserving traditional Okinawan Karate and Kobudo. This time it was for an event sponsored by the Okinawan government to bring attention to the island as the birthplace of karate. Over 250 karate instructors from Okinawa and Japan were invited, with only 4 people from other countries allowed to attend. Advincula Sensei was one of the 4 chosen. He was the representative for the United States and also for Ishindu Karate. Katagwa gave a speech on how his teacher, Tatsu Shimabuku, taught him 50 years prior that karate was for peace and sharing the culture of Okinawa. In 2012, the highly reputed Columbia River Knife and Tool began mass-producing the flesh eater, giving the knife the attention that only comes from being distributed by one of the world's largest manufacturers. Another great benefit of the flesh eater being made by CRKT is they offer a trainer made from a thermoplastic rubber material. This allows students to learn how to use the knife and its unique characteristics and train the techniques in a safe, effective manner. Since CRKT has been carrying the flesh eater, Advincula Sensei has been steadily called upon to teach the knife's tactics, and its popularity is rapidly growing. The original maker of the knife, Jim Hammond, has also worked with Advincula Sensei in obtaining designs to expand the flesh eater, which is now available in a variety of styles. In 2013, at the age of 75, Advincula has traveled tens of thousands of miles in this year alone, teaching seminars, instructing military, and preserving the teachings of Tatsushima Buku. He continues to outwork and outmaneuver students that are well over half his age, being an inspiration and an example of what unrelenting hard work can do. His distinctive laugh when joking with his students shows that he loves what he does. But one thing is certain, when it comes to knowledge and skill, he is no joke. Many high-ranking teachers and leaders of many styles will not work with low-ranking students. But Advincula Sensei greatly enjoys working with everyone, especially children, and often shares the importance of teaching students correctly from the beginning and the confidence that was instilled within him from his first teachers at 8 years old. His goal has never been to win a trophy, but to teach his students to be better people through the study of martial arts. The students who follow his teachings can say many things, but many train wholeheartedly to spread what Advincula has shared, which is the best way to say, thank you for teaching, Sensei.